What's up, everybody? We are back for another episode of Palm City Chucks. We got another rankings edition for you in football. And this week we're rolling with the tight ends. And let me tell you, this was difficult. I went into this thinking there were going to be 10 tight ends maybe I cared about. Wrote them all down and realized, well, shit, there's a little bit more talent at the tight end position than I thought, which made this quite interesting. Same parameters as last week. Starters for each team that we would expect going into next year as of right now, not including free agents or rookies. And with the starters caveat, call out now, there's some guys, use one example, Isaiah Likely, that definitely would have made this list had he been number one on the Ravens depth chart, but he is not. So he's excluded for the purposes of what we're doing here. And with that, I will pass it over to Chris to get us started. 32 through 28 tight ends. What you got, my guy?
All right. 32, we're starting with the very bottom, the worst tight end. Might call it a loose end. Adam Troutman, the Broncos. Then following him at 31, I have Kylan Granson, the Colts. Then at 30, I have Tommy Tremble, Panther. And then 29, I have Theo Johnson for the Giants. 28, I have Will Dissly for the Chargers.
Okay. My guys aren't in the exact same spots, but they're around that area. We're not getting too crazy yet.
Yeah,
I'll
not
say
yet.
that. I will say for the last spot, the loose end, as you say, I debated very hard between Kylan Granson and Adam Troutman. Ultimately, I went the opposite direction of you, and I put Kylan at 32 and then Adam Troutman at 31. In my 30 spot, before last year, this guy would have been a little higher on my list, but after last year, I got Noah Fant here coming in at 30, actually. 29, I got Will Dissly. So, pretty similar spot to you, just one spot earlier. Yeah. And then 28, that's where I have Tommy Tremble coming in. So nothing too crazy yet. I'm curious to see where you got Noah Fant, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah.
As same as last week, we will list these off and go to war afterwards.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Stay tuned for that.
Yes. All right. So at 27, I have Tyler Conklin. At 26, I have Juwan Johnson. At 25, I have Chig Okonkwo. And 24, I have Noah Fant.
Okay. I mean, that's not too crazy. These back end guys were so hard to pick a spot once they're so similar. Yeah. Most of them, they do a good job, but they're nothing spectacular.
Right.
But yeah, to that point. Sorry. I think I cut you off one early on the Noah Fant. I think you got one more.
I do. I have Tyler Higbee rounding out at 23 there. Which this was when I realized...
I'm getting too excited.
This is when I realized how tough it was. That one right there. Because I feel like going into this, I would have guessed he would be like top 12 or somewhere like that. And yeah, yep. I mean, there's just way more talent than I remembered. Yeah, it's a good time for a tight end in the league. It's not like it was even just 7 years ago.
Yep. I mean... For me, at 27, that's where I got Theo Johnson.
Okay.
26, Tyler Conklin. 25, Juwan Johnson. 24, Chig Okonkwo, which I'm just going to say right now, this was a very hard one for me. I think his production last year was a product of how terrible the Titans' offense was, and I actually really believe in this guy, that he might have something.
Very athletic.
That was a tough one for me. Exactly. Yeah. And then at 23 is where I got Hunter Henry coming in.
Okay. Yeah, he has begun his downfall, but yeah, nothing too crazy here.
Yeah.
All right. 22, I have Cole Kmet. 21, I have Kyle Pitts. 20, I have Hunter Henry. 19, I have Mike Gesicki. And 18, I have Pat Fairmouth.
Okay. We're definitely going to see some differences, I think, when we start getting into like the 10 to 15
Okay.
range, because you listed off some names here that are,
That are not
and
going to
we're going
be
to start
mentioned.
differing
Yeah.
now. Yeah, we're going to start differing
Okay.
now.
I
Um,
like it.
that's fun. So for me at 22, that's where I got Mike Gesicki coming in.
Okay.
21, Tyler Higbee. Not quite as low as you down at 23, but I did have to come to that realization as well that he's just not up there with
Right.
the rest of them. Um, 20, Dalton Schultz. 19, Cade Otton. And 18, Cole Kmet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to get juicy here.
It is going to
Buckle
get
in,
juicy.
folks. Okay. At 17, I have Dalton Schultz. At 16, I have Dalton Kincaid. At 15, I have Jake Ferguson. At 14, I have Cade Otton. And at 13, I have David Njoku.
Okay. I don't I don't hate Cade Otton at 14. That's all I'll
Yeah.
say on that right now, but I don't actually hate that, to be
He
honest.
did he did
Um,
which we'll save for our war, but he did benefit from a few things this year.
mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's 100% true. Now me, 17, I got Tucker Kraft. 16, Kyle Pitts. 15, exact same as you. First one, Jake Ferguson. Um, 14, Pat Fryermuth. I'd say like so. Pat Fryermuth is your Kate Otten for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah,
based on
that's
this list
true.
so far.
Little flipski.
Uh, and then Dalton Kincaid at 13.
Okay. All right, top 12. At 12, I have Zach Ertz. At 11, I have Evan Ingram. At 10, I have Tucker Kraft. At 9, I have Johnny Smith. And at 8, I have Dallas Goddard.
Okay, we're starting to get back to good things. The Tucker Craft is like that just throws things off,
Yeah,
but like that's fine. I don't hate that either. We'll save the
right.
explanation there. I
Yeah,
think
that
that's a
one we'll
little
definitely
rosy,
touch
but
on.
yeah. I think it's a little rosy, but that's okay. For me at 12, also Zach Ertz. For me at 11, also Evan Ingram.
Right.
For me at 10, Jonnu Smith. 9, David Njoku. And 8 is where I've got Travis Kelce coming in.
Oh, that's juicy.
Yep, that is juicy.
I like
That
that.
is juicy.
Okay. And then there were 7. At 7,
Yeah.
I got Mark Andrews. At 6, I have TJ Hawkinson. At 5, I have Travis Kelce. At 4, I have Sam Laporta. And at 3, I have Trey McBride.
Okay. This is getting fun. Um, interesting. So for me at 7, that's where I've got Dallas Goddard.
Okay.
This is gonna be really funny. I'm higher on your tight end. You're higher on my tight end than
Yeah.
I am. So that's funny. Because at 6, that's where I've got Sam Laporta.
Okay.
5, T.J. Hawkinson. 4, Mark Andrews. 3, Trey McBride.
Okay.
Yeah. Same top 2.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
same
curious
same
to see
top
which direction you
3,
went
but will
here.
they be
Same,
in
yeah.
the same order is the question. I feel
Yes,
like
it
it's
is.
pretty easy here, honestly. But I went Brock Bowers at 2, George Kittle at 1.
Yeah, I'm glad you led with that because I don't have that.
Really?
Really.
The rookie takes a
I really
crown.
don't. Rookie takes the crown. I mean, he just looked so impressive in what was an absolute shit
Oh yeah.
Raiders offense. He looked so good, so polished for a rookie. So if I'm projecting off of that, I think he did absolutely can be better than George Kittle next year. I think he was better than George Kittle this year. So, well, George Kittle's got a longer career and definitely has proven he can stay at that top level. And Brock Bowers has that to prove. We've only got 1 year on Bowers, and I've got that rated better than Kittle's year last year. So
Okay. Yeah,
that's
I mean,
that's my
let's
rationale for
just
the one
stay there.
there.
I mean, that's how we did last week. Battle the 1 and 2
Yeah,
right off rip in the war segment. Um, but yeah, I think Kittle does more with less, like way less targets, way less receptions, yet the yardage is pretty much right there. And I definitely think there's no denying Kittle is more well-rounded. I mean, he's an animal when he's blocking, when he's doing anything. The guy is just a football player. Bowers gives me more of like a Kelsey vibe, like he is going to be the best receiving tight end for the next X amount of years, which is great. And there is a place for that. I mean, there are many years where Kelsey was the best tight end in the league. But yeah, going off
you
of,
answered my question.
yeah, I go,
I was gonna ask, like, so would you not put Kelsey as the top tight end for the past
yeah,
however many
right,
years then?
right,
If
right.
that answered that,
Yeah,
yeah.
you totally can. But I think I am playing into the fact that it's a 1 year sample size. But you do have a great point in that the Raiders were garbage, and he did this with a terrible team. And by the end of the year, I mean, the defense was pretty much only worried about this guy, and he was still producing. But yeah, I think it's clear that is the 1 and 2. But yeah, I
Yeah.
got to give it to Kittle just because he's so well rounded, and like I said, he pretty much did the same amount of damage as far as yardage on much less targets and receptions.
I think that's a fair point, and I accept that on a surface level. But I think you got to dig into what were the kinds of targets, who was like the focal point of things, right? So Kittle was made for the catch and run. He's not really a short route guy. That's not really what, because he catches and runs so well. I mean,
Yeah,
he's, as we said, 1 and 2. So I think that matters there. And Brock Bowers was also their quick
he was
throw
everything.
guy. He was their everything guy. Yeah,
He really
exactly. He was
was.
their everything guy.
Yeah, they didn't have the
So,
luxury of having a gadget Debo type or anything like that to, get the short yardage going. He was the safety blanket. He was the big play. He was the red zone target. He was everything.
yeah. Okay, so pause really quick. You said his name, so I feel like we have to talk about it for just a
Oh,
second. George Kittle no longer has the Debo gadget
right.
guy. He is gone.
That is true.
Uh,
I,
for a fifth round pick, by the
yeah.
way, just a fifth rounder for Debo.
Let me say,
What the heck?
as an Eagles fan, I am very happy with it because I was scared of the Commanders getting Higgins, Cooper Kupp, guys like that. And I would much rather deal with a Debo than them. But that being said, a great risk for the Commanders only giving up a fifth for this guy. So I think it
Mm,
was definitely a win for the Commanders, but at the same time, as an Eagles fan, I'm okay with it. I think we can make do with this.
that's fair. That's fair. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. I just need to
Yes.
call that out because great risk for the Commanders because I think giving up a fifth round for Debo is nothing
Oh yeah.
at all.
I mean, you get
Um,
that back
so
as a compensatory pick uh, all the time. I mean, you can get fourth rounders and even better picks for that. But yeah,
yep,
and they have the money to spend. They only have a few guys under contract, so I mean, this is just the beginning for them. They're gonna go after some other guys.
yeah. No, I do agree. But yeah, so back to the regularly scheduled programming of tight ends
Yes.
here. Position that deserves more respect than it gets, even from us
Yes.
taking away
Right.
from them. How dare we? Um, but yeah, so that's really the rationale there for Brock Bowers at 1, George Kittle 2 for me. I think they're both really great players, and to your point, it is honestly hard to compare because they play two very, very different
Mm.
games. Very different games. Um, and Brock Bowers has to keep up what he did last year to remain in the spot. I do want to be clear. When I wrote him down at 1, that is like an expectation I have. If he doesn't, then yeah, clear George Kittle,
Yeah.
obviously. But
Yeah, I agree. And like we
I'm
said,
banking on a reproductive season.
yeah, and so much talent here, as we said. So it's going to be easier said than done to keep the crown. But yeah, he definitely has the tools. I want to talk about one, Mark Andrews, because I really like where you have him. And in years past, I mean, you're insane to have him out of the top 5. And me, pretty well-known Mark Andrews fan, has him all the way at
Yeah.
7 this year. But I have a question for you. Do you think he bounces back next year? Like car crash, likely, whatever it was that contributed to the slow start this year, does that go out the window and he's the Mark Andrews of old?
I think that's what I was projecting when I put him at 4 because you're right. He started really slow. It looked like it was about to become the permanent Isaiah Likely
Yeah.
show. But then, I mean, he came back to form.
Oh,
He
and
started to
closed
look
out.
like his old self. So,
Yeah, and he ended the year 6 straight games with a touchdown, which is just phenomenal.
yeah. So me putting him at 4 there is definitely projecting he returns to the Mark Andrews of old, and I didn't want to discredit him too much for the rough start to the season. There's a lot of factors there, right? So I think he was deserving of the 4 spot, and I do think 7 might be a little harsh, but
Yeah,
also it's hard to get upset at the guys that you have in front of
right.
him.
Yeah, just so
So
much talent, man. So let's
yeah,
talk about our boys since we
yeah,
since we kind of
yeah.
flip flopped based on where our loyalties lie. But yeah, so why Sam Laporta at 6 and why Goddard all the way up at 7 for you?
Yeah, I mean, where'd you have
I
Goddard
had him
first off?
8.
8.
Yeah,
So yeah. So I did have him one spot higher, and he was out a lot last year, and availability is an ability, so that
mm,
matters. But when he is in the game, he is probably higher than 7
yeah,
in terms of tight ends, because to your point, and something I do value, is a tight end that can
yeah.
block,
He does it all.
and Dallas Goddard can freaking block.
Yeah,
So
yeah. He's Kittle
I
light
just felt
in that way.
Yeah, and this is more so. I think to really answer your question, I think it's more so a reflection of the Kelsey downfall, because that's really the one spot difference there is that I've got Kelsey all the way down at
Yeah,
8, and that's I think last year showed he is starting to slow down. His effort level in the Super Bowl was
disgusting.
unacceptable. Um, so even if he comes back, and it does look like he
Mm,
will for at least one more year, I don't think he's the Kelsey of old anymore. He is still, I think, a top 10 tight end in the league, and have a game here and there where he will just go
yeah,
off. But I think he's slowing down, so I had to move him to 8, and that really led to Goddard moving up to 7. And then Sam Laporta at 6 was really just he had a pretty down year last year, which I think was a result of the scheme more than anything else. He just wasn't as
mm,
involved in the game plan as the year prior, his rookie year. And also my love for TJ Hawkinson and Mark Andrews. They're
they
awesome.
are.
Like Hawkinson is amazing. Um, I could see flip flopping those. I don't think Sam makes it up to 4 on my list quite yet. Maybe at
Yeah,
5, TJ back at 6, but had to go with TJ there right now.
yeah, yeah. I respect that. They are a bunch of studs. It's just really tough to order these guys. But
It
to your
is.
point about Kelsey, which I've even said this to my family, just watching games this year. Kelsey and Zach Ertz are pretty much the same at this point. It's just Ertz has less volume. But like if Daniels wanted to get him the ball as much as Mahomes gets Kelsey the ball, like he could. But as far as blocking or run after catch or anything like that, they're pretty much whatever at this point. They're sure-handed and they're good route runners, and that's about it. So yeah, I think me having him all the way up at 5 was just looking at the whole picture, which I know we're really not supposed to with these, but like it's just so tough. And I mean, he is without a doubt a Hall of Famer and one of the best I've ever
Legend of
seen.
the game.
Yeah, legend of the
Yeah,
game.
maybe the
So
best.
yeah,
Yeah.
just really tough to keep him out of the top 5, but part of me really wanted to.
See, you say that, but then both of us were able to come to the conclusion that Aaron Rodgers deserved to be in like the bottom 5 of our
Right. Yeah.
lists
What's with the
for
double
quarterbacks.
standard, man?
Yeah, come on, bro. What are we doing
That's
here?
true. Revised list,
But another
Kelsey
one we
is
got.
30.
Yeah, that.
Sorry, Adam
Fair.
Troutman, you are still the loose end.
Exactly. I'm glad we're on the same page now. I feel like another one we got to talk about is Tucker
Yes.
Kraft. You got him up at 10, and I got him all the way down at
Yeah,
17.
definitely want to talk about him. I feel like just the value of the entire position, not just receiving. I think this guy is a football player. Yeah, a very good blocker, and he's short-handed and he's nice after the catch. He actually reminds me a lot of Goddard. Very athletic, and will run through you. Like he's not just going to go down or run out of bounds. And yeah, he's a very good blocker too. And yeah, I mean, where I had him on this list too, it was just kind of in that tough spot where guys were pretty much the same, and somebody had to be higher than the other. And I think due to his age and just play style, which I really like, he ended up, getting the edge over these other guys.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me, why I put him at 17 is I think he's a player that can become the player you're describing there. I'm not sure that I've seen the full picture of that yet. I think he's got the potential in my eyes to definitely move up a lot on my
Yeah.
list. But I don't know that I've seen it yet. He had a few blow up games last year, that's for
Yeah,
sure. I'm
he did.
pretty sure I remember like an 80-yard touchdown one of them, but
Yeah. Well, because even
don't
last year, he was in a position battle with Musgrave. Yeah.
Musgrave, yeah.
Which he looked nice too. And then all of a sudden, by the end of last year, it was like, hey, it's this guy. And yeah, he's just been climbing up my, my rankings ever since.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And another guy I had a little bit higher than you. I was surprised to see you put Kincaid all the way down
Yeah.
at
I
16,
wanted to
barely
talk about
making your
him
top
too.
half. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't impressed. I was expecting with the Bills roster this year and lack of receivers, I was expecting a monster year out of him, and it just did not happen. And he battled some injuries too along the way. But yeah, he just didn't seem impressive to me. And again, just another guy I feel like is pretty one dimensional, not much of a blocker, more of a receiver. And if you're a receiving tight end who doesn't block, you better have the numbers to back it up. And I don't think he did. So yeah, I punished him pretty good for that because the guys ahead of him that are receiving tight ends had much better stats, and the guys that are ahead of them that aren't receiving tight ends are much better blockers and basically produce the same level as far as receiving goes.
No, that's very fair. I mean, I didn't have him much higher.
Nah,
I only had him at
13. Yeah.
13, so it's not like blowing it out of the water there, but bordering on the bottom half. Didn't quite think he was right there, so I did want to hear
Yeah.
your thoughts on him. And then I feel like we got to track back to our first real, like, interesting, the Pat Fryermuth and Kate Otten flips. So talk me through Kate Otten all the way up at 14.
Yeah. Like I said, definitely benefited from some things this year regarding Godwin and Evans' injury. There was a few weeks there where, I mean, guy was getting like 15 targets a game. Like it was just stupid. But again, another guy I really think does both. He blocks well and he's a good receiving tight end too. And I really value that because you have to do both. And used to play the position myself, and I understand you got to win the battle in the trenches, got to go up against a DN by yourself sometimes, and yeah, you got to get the job done. And I feel like he's just very well rounded, and yeah, just another guy too who's younger that I feel like has room to grow and move up even further than where I have him, let alone at 19. But yeah, just really like the guy. Um, Definitely fall in love with some of these guys, and I amp them up a little bit, but I think that's fine. That's all part of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, that's what makes it fun, right? A little bit different.
Yeah,
And I will say, like, this range is where it just became a little bit of a hodgepodge for me, which is why I said I'm not necessarily upset with Kate Odd at 14 on your list.
yeah,
I can totally see it. And as you said, I can see him moving up even higher than that in years to come if he keeps up, especially the receiving production. I think why I had him at 19 is I question does that keep up when a lot of the receivers around him come back. I'm not so sure if the production keeps up there or if that really did catapult those numbers a little bit. Remains to be
right.
seen. Um, like kind of similar story for why you went with Kate out in there is why I went with Pat Fryermuth all the way up at
Yeah,
14. I think that guy is very undervalued on that Steelers team. He does
he does.
a lot. And he also has some great hands. He makes some fantastic
He
grabs.
does.
And just a tough dude. Takes a lot of big hits.
Yeah. He's
Um,
another guy who gives me Goddard vibes.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
kind of a bully and athletic along with it. And yeah, just a great red zone target as well.
All I'm going to say also tangentially is he's a Penn State guy,
Yeah.
Fryermuth. Um, there is a lot of Penn State tight ends on this list. I got to tell you, Pat Fryermuth, Theo Johnson, Juwan Johnson, Mike Gesicki. We're about
Yeah.
to go into a tight end battle with Iowa
Right.
for tight end
Yeah.
U.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Careful though. Iowa's are all top five.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know. I was just gonna say, don't worry, we're not there
Yeah.
yet. But we at least got the numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It wasn't I'm glad you brought that up. I wasn't aware of some of those guys being Penn Staters.
yes,
Another guy
sir.
I want to
Yes,
talk
sir.
about, which again, kind of nitpicking. We're not that far off from each other, but Hunter Henry, a guy who a few years ago even was kind of all they had for the Patriots and was just kind of a beast in the red zone. Not much of a run after catch guy, just a big target. And
Yeah.
yeah, we both kind of have him pretty low. But again, just so much talent, and these guys just got to fall somewhere.
There is, and I think my reasoning, you said it right there. I mean, what he is just a big target
Yeah,
guy, not really your playmaker, difference maker, gonna
right.
make a boom play to really change the game. He can make sure you finish off the drive, which is very valuable in
Yes.
itself. But for somebody who that's their big benefit is about that range, 23 is where I had him. Is that's where I kind of wanted to put those guys
Yeah,
because right in front of him, Mike Gesicki, kind of similar story. Although I would say he's a little more
he
athletic than
is.
Hunter
Yeah, a little
Henry.
better after the catch.
Yeah. Hence the order there.
Right.
Juwan Johnson, another similar guy like that. Um, so yeah, little
And
interesting.
then another one I have here. You showed Kyle Pitts a decent amount of love here, and I'm wondering
16,
why.
yeah.
Because this guy has
Um,
done nothing but disappoint, really, as long as he's been in the league, but has all the tools to be just a freaking stud. So I don't. You
here
thinking Penix maybe turns this thing around?
now here's the story. All right, if you look at some of these guys' stats that we have in front of
Mm,
him, production actually pretty
yeah,
comparable, and I think it's really just a story of we're being very harsh on him because he was
yeah,
expected to be a Brock Bowers
right,
type, and that is not what he is. But he's still producing, just not at the levels that we were expecting. So I think because of that, and we shine a little bit of a harsher light on him. And 16 is still not crazy. It's just barely in the top
yeah,
half. Um, but also keep in mind, for the past 2 years, they've been a very run-heavy team with their double-headed, backfield between Bijan Robinson and Tyler
yeah,
Algier. Um, so kind of limits the opportunities as well. And also, I still believe there is a player in there, a better player than what's shown, maybe given the opportunities. So that's the rationale for me having him at 16 there.
yeah, yeah. He definitely. There's another beast in there just waiting to be tapped. Um, but yeah, just another guy. I had him as low as I did because again, I just see him as a receiving tight end, and I don't see him as much of a blocker. And yeah, the numbers just don't wow me. And yeah, maybe I am a little harsh on him because he was the third pick in the draft or whatever he was. And yeah, he's supposed to be a top 10 guy at least. And here he is on the bottom half of our list or right at the half mark.
Yeah. He's definitely lower than where he should be for the
Yeah, definitely.
capital put into him. I really struggled with that word right there. Could not get it out. But yeah, kind of a not really player specific, but just general
Mm,
question. For the guys in the say bottom bottom 12 of your list or so. So, are there any guys that you can see making a really big jump? Do you think
Yeah.
that's there, or you
Well,
think they're stuck?
I would say, I mean, at the very bottom, we have some young guys that honestly just haven't had the time or the opportunity. I'm talking the Troutman, Granson, Tremble, Theo Johnson. That's one I could really see kind of doing some things. Theo Johnson. Um, but then Kyle Pitts, like we were just talking about, I feel like he could definitely make up some ground. And then for me, which he's beyond your top 12, and this was a tough one for me, especially since I do like the Bears, but I think Komet definitely could bounce back. He kind of had a down year compared to years prior, and I think it's just, A, they had no offensive line, so Caleb didn't really have much time, and B, it was a crowded room of weapons. So I think with Keenan Allen likely moving on, I feel like that's going to give him some more opportunity, and I could see him definitely. I mean, I could see him moving up as high as 15. Um, yeah, and that same goes
Yeah,
for
I will
Pitts. I
say
could see a big jump there.
I did I did think you were harsh on Cole Kmet.
Yeah,
I think he
because
put up some really good years prior to
he
last
did, and he
year,
does both
and there
too.
was a
Like
down
he's a
year.
serviceable
Yeah,
blocker. But yeah, I really wanted to keep it about this year as much as I could with um some things getting in the way of that, like Kelsey and the legacy there. But yeah, beyond that, I really tried to make it about this past year, and yeah, I think he certainly could move up a lot. And then right next to him at 23 on mine, Higby. I feel like he could bounce back too. A lot of injuries this year. Uh, Cup's going to be moving on. So I feel like he could definitely make a larger impact. And he shows a lot of promise. Another really athletic dude.
I feel like Higby for me. That's really the only one I super disagree with. There is I think Higby could make a jump into the top half.
Mm.
I don't know if I see a path to much higher than that for
Yeah,
him.
yeah. I mean,
I
that's
think he,
what I'm talking anyway. I'm not
yeah,
saying these guys are getting in top 10 or anything, but yeah,
yeah.
definitely could see him moving up, 6, 7 spots from where I have him.
That's fair. That's
And
fair.
then,
I think for me, first off, I really agree. Theo Johnson,
yeah,
I think he could make a really big
yeah,
jump. I think he was pretty promising once he fully took over the tight end position from Daniel Bellinger.
mm,
Got hurt, obviously, so didn't get to continue that. But I think there is a lot of promise
yeah,
there.
I agree.
Um, you called out Tommy Tremble. I will say I think he's lucky to be on this list, and come start of the season, he might not be number one on the depth chart. I think Jatavian Sanders, if he breaks into the year, just going to shout, breaks into this list next year, could be pushing probably the middle much higher than Tommy Tremble. I like him a lot
Okay.
more. Um, Granson's a big one that's like, you're right. We just have no idea what he
Right.
is right now. So totally could. And then one of my personal favorites, um, that I think could make a really big jump is Chigo Conquo. I think he looked super athletic and great 2 years ago. Like he had a chance to really, really be something. Um, and then last year was just not it.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned earlier, I really think that is a product of just how terrible that Tennessee Titans offense
Yeah, it
was.
was
It
rough.
was awful to watch, every
Yeah.
piece of it. So I think he could really make a sizable jump. He's a guy I've got my eye on for sure.
Yeah, the athletic ability for him is tremendous. I mean, he had like an 80-yard touchdown or something this year. Man was flying, and somebody played against him in fantasy that week and may have cost him a W. Yeah,
Maybe,
but
maybe.
yeah, that guy could definitely make a jump. That is a good shout out. Anybody else you want to discuss here?
I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty settled for my end. This was really difficult. I found this harder than the quarterback list for sure.
Yeah,
I honestly felt like I had a pretty good idea, mostly where those people lined up, felt pretty good about it. When I was done putting this list together, I was like,
yeah, it's not what I expected.
I don't know
Yeah,
about some of these, but this is what we're rolling with.
yeah, I agree. I thought it was going to be easy. Uh, I mean, we knew we were doing this for the whole week. I had it in the back of my mind, was thinking about some things, and yeah, I agree. I thought some of these guys for sure would be higher than they ended up.
100%. 100%. All right. With that, everybody, that wraps up yet another episode of Palm City Chucks. Tight ends for you this week. We don't know what position we're doing yet next week. You'll find out. You'll just have to tune in.
Yes.
What can I say? But with that, we appreciate you all. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think of the rankings. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Later, PCC!